Thanks to Epic Games for sponsoring this video. Hello, I'm Adrian, and today we're taking an in-depth look at Sub-Zero's fighting style in Mortal Kombat. Hua Liang and his brother Bi-Han were both trained by the Lin Kuei clan. With the passing of Bi-Han at the hands of Scorpion, Hua Liang took his brother's codename Sub-Zero and vowed to take revenge at the Mortal Kombat tournament. Dressed in blue and having the supernatural ability to manipulate ice, Sub-Zero is one of the most recognizable and popular characters in the Mortal Kombat franchise. After a small hiatus, Mortal Kombat returned in 2011 in the critically acclaimed and highly successful reboot Mortal Kombat 9, also known simply as Mortal Kombat. And that's the version of Sub-Zero we will be focusing on during this video. I will analyze every unique move he exhibits in this game. If you're a fan of Marvel films and video games, I highly recommend subscribing to my channel and watching my other videos, as I've already analyzed awesome fighters including Nathan Drake from the Uncharted series and Solid Snake from the Metal Gear series, as well as several Marvel characters including Thor and Iron Man. As a matter of fact, those two very same heroes just made their grand debut in Chapter 2 Season 4 of Fortnite. Dubbed Nexus War, it's a comic book style event where several major characters team up to fight off the planet-destroying villain Galactus. So now's a perfect time to jump in. If you haven't downloaded Fortnite already, use my tracking link in the description below to download Fortnite for free. In case you haven't heard, Fortnite is the world's most popular battle royale game, developed by Epic Games. 100 players jump out of a bus onto an island to collect the weapons and materials while fighting to be the last player or team standing. Those who purchase Fortnite's seasonal battle pass will unlock the aforementioned Thor and Iron Man, along with Storm, Mystique, Doctor Doom, Groot, and She-Hulk. Wolverine can also be unlocked by completing his challenges. And not only have the Marvel heroes and villains landed on the island, but so have their locations. You can visit new locations like Doom's Domain, Sentinel Graveyard, and more. And when you do control these characters, you'll have access to their superpowers, such as Groot's Bramble Shield and Doctor Doom's Arcane Gauntlets. Click on the link in the description to get started. The gameplay is really fun, and the presentation of everything is just as awesome as the trailers. Returning to the analysis at hand, the goal of these videos is to figure out just how many fighting styles our combatant is familiar with by analyzing the specific moves featured in their footage and pairing them with the martial art or fighting style which most aptly represents those moves. There's a huge amount of crossover in martial arts techniques, and a technique that is present in one fighting style may also be present in another, such as a roundhouse kick being present in multiple martial arts. But in order to not give combatants multiple fighting styles for the sake of variety, I've instead opted to list the most apt fighting style that best represents that particular character, technique, or set of techniques. I highly recommend playing Mortal Kombat 9, as this video will analyze gameplay footage. Fighting styles that Sub-Zero may know in any other form of media, or other games in the series, spin-offs, or guest appearances do not count. Without further ado, let's take a look at how many fighting styles Sub-Zero knows. Throughout the video, I will be referring to his attacks by their in-game name along with their real-world name equivalent, which sometimes happen to align. First up, we have the front punch. In this technique, Sub-Zero is actually executing a Dragon Claw strike. The Dragon Claw hails from Kung Fu, specifically Dragon-style Kung Fu. In Shaolin Kung Fu, the 5 main animal styles are Tiger, Crane, Snake, Leopard, and the aforementioned Dragon. What's unique about the Dragon is that it contains elements from all the other styles. For example, it heavily uses tiger-like punches and clawing techniques, snake-like stance shifts, and leopard-like hit and run strikes. Returning to Sub-Zero, you can see that his hand is positioned in a way that resembles a claw. It's known as a Dragon Claw, and although it looks very similar to a Tiger Claw, it's different in subtle ways, from its form to execution. The Dragon Claw has plenty of variations and uses. His next move in the game is called the Back Punch, which is known as a Hammer Fist in reality. It's seen in a few martial arts, but it makes most sense to pair it with Sub-Zero's second main fighting style within the Mortal Kombat mythos, and that is Shotokan Karate. Karate is an umbrella martial art, just like Kung Fu. Probably the most popular and widely practiced style within karate is Shotokan. Shotokan Karate is characterized by 3 parts in its training: the Kihon, or basics, Kata, or forms, and Kumite, or sparring. The Hammer Fist is a technique seen in karate where you lift your fist and swing it down forcefully, striking with the outer edge of your hand. And there are several variations to it, as you don't necessarily have to swing it up and down. In Sub-Zero's case, there is a great deal of follow-through in the technique. Next up is what the game refers to as a back kick, which in martial arts is a spinning hook or spinning heel kick. It fits well with both Shotokan Karate and Kung Fu. In karate, it's known as an Ushiro Ura Mawashi Geri. This kick right here, referred to as a front kick in the game, is actually known as a side kick in martial arts. You tuck in your leg and extend with as much force as possible, striking with the heel of your foot. and makes an appearance in several martial arts, including karate. However, in Sub-Zero's case, note how his arms are positioned. This is a distinct part of Dragon-style Kung Fu, as this sort of elaborate arm movement is frequently seen in Dragon-style forms and techniques. Continuing with Dragon style, next up is the aptly named Swipe, which is once again a Dragon Claw that has the same principles as last time with a different trajectory. You can better see his Dragon Claw in this attack. Note the spacing of his fingers and how they are curved slightly inward. Furthermore, you can very clearly see how he involves not just his arm, but his waist in this technique. This is because the Dragon stylist, like Sub-Zero, is encouraged to use their waist to generate power rather than just the shoulders and arms. This is a movement that imitates the whipping action of a dragon's tail. The uppercut, as it's called in the game, is indeed an uppercut. The technique is present in karate, in a much more subdued form of course, and his execution certainly has a dragon style influence. Note how his hand is not really closed in a fist, displaying his influence of the Dragon Claw. The well-titled Force Claw in the game is when Sub-Zero throws two simultaneous Dragon Claws, but before he even executes the technique, he circles his hands as if he were forming an invisible ball. This concept is very present in Dragon-style Kung Fu, and you can very often see it during training. In karate, the striking technique itself is known as a Morotezuki, which means double punch. What is known as a big leg in the game is actually, say it with me now, You've seen it dozens of times on this channel, and it's a technique shared across a variety of martial arts, including Shotokan Karate. If you'd like to see an in-depth explanation behind the mechanics of it, as well as just how useful it is, check out my fighting skills video of Captain America, as he is the undisputed champion of said technique. Next up in the game is Sweep, and to be specific, it's a back leg sweep kick. As his name implies, you move your leg in a sweeping motion, knocking your opponent down in the process. What needs to be clarified at this point, because I'm sure many of you have been wondering this, is that even though Sub-Zero is clearly a ninja-like character in design, from his covered face to his clothes, this doesn't automatically mean he knows the fighting style of ninjutsu. As you have seen so far, he hasn't shown any techniques from said style. However, if you'd like to learn more about ninjutsu, check out my Scorpion Fighting Styles video. With all his named techniques covered, let's move on to Sub-Zero's combos. First up is Frosty. In this combo, he attacks with two Dragon Claw techniques. He begins by using the same swipe you've already seen, and the second attack looks like much more of a traditional palm strike. Note how his fingers are curved, displaying an excellent Dragon Claw for said technique. He begins cold feet by throwing a Dragon Claw, then a side kick, and transitions into a jumping side kick. It works similar to a jumping front kick, but you execute a side kick after the jump as opposed to a front kick. Note how he keeps his hands up during both strikes, denoting a strong Dragon-style foundation. Arctic Blast is a Dragon Claw followed by a side kick, and then he finishes the combo with a sweep kick. Ice Pick begins with a Dragon Claw, continues with him using a generated Ice Pick on his opponent, and concludes with a spinning Dragon Claw. Ice Cold starts the same way as Ice Pick, with a Dragon Claw followed by an Ice Pick, but then he delivers a spinning sweep kick at the end. Frostbitten changes things up with a Hammer Fist, followed by a Dragon Claw that functions as a freezing technique, and concludes with a strong Morotezuki. Ices Up begins the same as Frostbitten, with a hammer and freezing technique, but ends with an awesome spinning hook kick. Now you can see the difference between his earlier spin hook kick, in which he was much more tucked in, and this spin hook kick, where his torso aligns much better with his leg. Thunder Slice uses the incredible push kick, and he follows it up with a slice from an ice-generated sword. The supernatural ability to generate ice is frequently seen in media. It has several distinct names, but in Mortal Kombat lore, Sub-Zero is known as a Cryomancer because of said abilities. As a matter of fact, you can choose said fighting style in Mortal Kombat 10. So let's take a look at all his available specials in Mortal Kombat 9 involving his skills as a Cryomancer. He can shoot an ice ball, shoot a much more powerful ice beam, execute a freezing slide, execute a power slide which adds an extra Morotezuki at the end of the technique, make a clone of himself formed of ice, add more power to it turning it into an ice statue, generate an ice puddle which traps his opponent for a brief amount of time, or execute a ground freeze, which, as its name implies, covers much more ground. As far as his skill with the sword goes, there's extensive weapons training in many styles of Kung Fu. You train not only with swords, but with countless other weapons as well. So his knowledge of sword techniques fits in perfectly with his expertise in Dragon-style Kung Fu. His Winter Blade combo starts with a Hammer Fist, and he follows it up with two Ice Sword strikes. Cold Steel begins the same as Winter Blade, but is followed by a jump spin hook kick. This is an excellent demonstration of how a technique can be modified. Instead of jumping up high with a far-reaching kick like Solid Snake, the hop is much more horizontal with an intent to gain distance, and the kick is much lower. Chill Out is comprised of a sidekick followed by a jumping sidekick. So in conclusion, how many fighting styles does Sub-Zero know in Mortal Kombat 9? They are Shotokan Karate, Dragon Style Kung Fu, and Cryomancer, for a grand total of 3 fighting styles. I'd like to thank each one of my Patreon members as their contribution helped in the making of this video. If you'd like to contribute and appear in the credits in the future, my Patreon page is Godzillarex and it's in the description below. What do you think of the Mortal Kombat games? What other characters should I analyze next? Would you like to see me analyze Scorpion and Sub-Zero in Mortal Kombat 10? Let me know in the comments below, subscribe for more awesome videos, and see you next time.